everyone. We are back again, and I am here with Mr. Bugs on Elevate. And tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in um, Gary Roosevelt High School, as well as a little follow up on what's going on with the school. So, hello, Mr. Bugs. How are you?
Hello, Miss Barrett. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. So I know you know some back, you know, information, the story of Roosevelt, some back information before I got back into town. Can you tell us, what you know about what happened to Roosevelt? Why did it close, or why do you think it got closed?
Okay, a little brief history. The reason Roosevelt was built in the first place is because of racism. They didn't want the races mixed, so they built Roosevelt specifically for the black students to have some place to go. So Roosevelt is a historical site. It's graduated many, many educators of all walks of life. But let's get to the nitty gritty of what actually happened. I think his name was Tony Bennett said that the city of Gary was having so many years of failures that if they did it one more year, that they was going to essentially take over Roosevelt School. So they took it over and they hired somebody to run it called Edison Learning. Now, what they did was when they came in, it was my understanding. I wasn't on the school board then, but I was keeping up with things that was going on. It was my understanding that uh, the maintenance people for Edison Learning changed the locks to not allow interest for the maintenance people for the Gary Community School Corporation. In doing so, when it come time to fire up those boilers for the school, the maintenance people for Edison Learning, they didn't know how to do it. They didn't do it timely. In other words, it resulted in the pipes freezing and bursting, and they didn't have enough heat. I mean, there was all kind of problems. So actually, after it got out of hand a little bit, so then they went crying to DUAB, and DUAB informed them at that time that that's not your job in the first place. The Gary Community School Corporation is supposed to maintain those boilers. Well, the harm has been done already. So then once that you have a pipe that is burst and pipes that are 100 years old, that means the one that didn't burst have been compromised. Heat expands, cold contract. So that back and forth causes even more problems. Then, in order to rectify the problem, they didn't know exactly how many pipes had burst and where they were located because allegedly they couldn't find the original blueprints of the building. So that's where the problem initially started. So you may say, in essence, the mechanical reasons for Roosevelt is due to the state because for years and years and years there never was any problems uh, with Roosevelt as far as the heating and cooling was concerned, because the maintenance people that we had knew how to charge the boilers up, when to cut them on, how to do everything that needed to be done for them to work efficiently. But these people came in, the Edison Learning people, and changed the locks, and so that's how that happened.
Yeah.
So then, after about 5 years after the state took over Roosevelt with this Edison Learning, the grades was getting worse, even worse than they were when it was so-called public school control. So that's how it sort of came to being, in all of the students out, they too cold, or either they too hot, too cold or too hot. So then fast forward a little bit, Mr. Tony Walker, I was at a Indiana Department of Education board meeting. He admitted that he made a mistake because he was a big advocate for Edison Learning and blah, blah, blah to take over the schools. So he proposed to give it back to the district. Now, in the meantime, the Edison Learning had been failing. Their scores were lower than say West Side and West Emerson. But ironically, the last year of Roosevelt operation, the graduation rate was up in the hundreds, pretty close to 100, which was a vast improvement. And right after that, the scores came out. Then they got rid of the teachers. Then they shut it down. So I don't know what that was all about.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Bugs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, but I thought right before that referendum was passed, I thought the DUAB had a few conversations about Roosevelt in the community. I thought they had a meeting at IUN. Well, not that I thought, because I went to the meeting, but I thought that the meeting was about Roosevelt and what we would do with Roosevelt and what the community wanted to do with Roosevelt. And from my understanding, the community had a resounding agreement that we should keep Roosevelt, fix Roosevelt, and open Roosevelt back up eventually, even if it's to be transitioned from a museum back to a school, but that the school system be responsible for maintaining, fixing, and making sure that the building was still there. I thought that was what we discussed and agreed upon. Did you know that Roosevelt was, as a person on the school board or school advisory board, were you guys advised that Roosevelt was up for sale? And if so, did y'all have any ability to have any say?
No, I'm gonna back up a little bit. I just found out that it was for sale. I heard Dr. Paige McNulty said on the radio last week. But before that, let me back up a little bit and regress a little bit. Once they found out that there was the students could no longer be in Roosevelt, that it was over at the Career Center in the garage. So then the Department of Education came and had that meeting here, and that was definitely unacceptable. So they took a tour of the school to assess the damages. At that time, I think it was they said about $8 million to get the mold and fix the pipes and everything and make it livable, so to speak. But that didn't go through. So then they got a local contract. Of course, the emergency manager said that they had talked to Powers and Son, when in fact they had not.
Really?
Assessment. Yeah, they lied. They good on that.
No, Powers and Son never gave an assessment.
Right, but here's what I gave them. I gave them a suggestion. I said they was talking about spending. Eric Paris is going to put $8 million to replace the roof on West Side, and I said if it costs $15 million to renovate Roosevelt, then the best thing that I would suggest to do is rip out everything internally out of Roosevelt, everything. And then you replace all of the pipes with new pipes and whatever you want to do. And now you got a brand new school. You keep the facade. And now instead of building a new school, you have a new school, essentially.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. But the fact that I suggested it fell on deaf ears. So then the next thing I know, there was allegedly a couple of investors that wanted Roosevelt. And in the meantime, there was some alumni that wanted to keep Roosevelt as a school and has it designated as a historical site, which Miss Judy Mead, she did accomplish that. And Roosevelt is designated as a historical site. So it offends me when Dr. Paige McNulty, who is white and lives in Valparaiso, Indiana, would say Roosevelt, just like it's any other school. Oh, Roosevelt is up for sale if you want to buy it. This is the history of a lot of people in this town.
Yes.
Any person that went to Roosevelt and knew somebody went to Roosevelt, this is a part of us.
This is a part of
us. Suggest it's like it's a
building something. Just a building.
Yeah. Well, if you want to, you know, that's how lax they are on our feelings in Gary, you know, our pride, what means much to us. But I bring a lot of the public. They sitting by quietly, let somebody come into their house and disrupt their house, tear it up, sell all of their assets, and nobody's saying anything.
You know what, Mr. Brooks, let me tell you this. I think what the problem is no one's trying to give voice to people either. Like, there's no real outlets for people to have a say right now, at least over the last since COVID hit. And so I put a post out on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, save Roosevelt. Roosevelt is about to go up for sale. And right now, I think I have probably 300-400 people responding saying, do not do that. And they're even asking, what can they do and where can they send donations? So, hopefully we can come together, agree on how to raise funds and raise those funds. I mean, I wouldn't be against, setting all that up and getting that going. It's just that we also have, like Judy Leaks, I think that's her name, Mead Leaks, something like that.
Yeah, Mead.
She is the president of the Roosevelt alumni. Trying to get in contact with her and working with her to set up some type of fundraising would be what I think we should do. And I definitely think Ms. McNulty needs to respect that the community owns that building, the taxpayers own that building, and we have resoundingly said, do not sell our gym. So that's where we stand on that. We'll be working on that. Now, Mr. Bugs, I heard that newspaper article came out about, the issues that happened at Westside Leadership with you and the emergency manager, Ms. McNulty. Can you tell us a little bit about that news story that came out and, make clear what should the story be? Can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, but let me make a couple more comments about Roosevelt.
Okay.
The funding, you're speaking about funding.
Yeah.
Be aware of the fact that you're going to need at least about $20 million if you're talking about renovating it, taking all those moldy pipes out and making it safe and livable for somebody to actually use it. That's the kind of money you're talking about. I know a lot of people say, I can send $100, $200. That is not going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So I want people to know that we're talking about a large money. But there's one other thing, too, that somebody suggested. She was trying to get a Michael Jackson event. Matter of fact, the last of this month. But Dr. McNulty and Miss Bradley threw a monkey wrench in there. All kind of excuses. These accused me of harassing. But this young lady had the person that built what was Michael Jackson, Happy Land or Wonderland? What was the name of that?
Neverland.
Mm-hmm. He was going to come into Gary, and they was going to take a look at renovating Roosevelt and turning it into a production studio for young artists, where you could record. It's going to be like a museum for the arts.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You could record. You could do all of these things within that one building, which was an excellent idea. And they just trashed that,
Wow.
So, that is one of the best I've heard.
Well,
going to be doing some of this thing on their own without pay, pro bono, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, the sad part about it is what we've come across. A lot of natives or a lot of people from Gary have tried to work with the current emergency manager, MGT people. They've tried to come in, work with, volunteer, give their services for construction or what have you, just try to really even give donations.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, it has been hard nose or just ignoring people trying to communicate with them at all, not giving opportunities for people to come in and help in any capacity. And to me, that's making it seem like no one's interested in helping our students or helping to maintain our buildings or schools, and making it easier for them to give an excuse
Yeah.
as to why they're making their own decisions without the input of the public, even when the public has tried to reach out on many different levels. So,
Can you imagine the asset of having a recording studio in Gary, Indiana, in honor of Michael Jackson, where people could come here and record with the label coming from Gary, and there was other a school of music also was going to be incorporated in Roosevelt
wow.
to teach you how to perform. It was a whole complete package, and most of these people was going to be donating their times to make this happen.
Yeah.
And Dr. Paige McNulty put a thumb on it, and Miss Bradley said that I was harassing her because she said we can close our school. What it was, we wanted to use the parking lot. The young lady did. It was
Yeah.
her idea, and I was just, she asked me if I would help her.
Mhm.
Uh, she did go to the maintenance people. She had a contract that was signed. And the only thing they said that you'd have to provide your own electricity and your porta potties. Now I got a copy of the contract.
Mhm.
Dr. McNulty put the word out and Miss Bradley that it was uninhabitable. Couldn't use it,
Mhm.
which was wrong. The man never said that. But anyway, that's how that happened. So I think the people in Gary ought to rise up like they never did before to save Roosevelt, because that would be like sticking a dagger in your heart to have the soul and someone tear it down or whatever. Once you sell it, you can't tell people what to do with their own property once you sell it.
Right.
But I don't see how she's going to get around that being a historical site to sell it in the first place.
That's what a lot of people are saying because it's marked a national landmark, and we're trying to people in Gary are trying to get it as recognized in the city of Gary as a landmark. And I would say if you're in the city of Gary, call the mayor's office and let the mayor know that that building is a great concern of ours in the city of Gary as citizens, and we
Mhm.
want the city to make sure that it's marked as a landmark and not touched but preserved, because even if you for construction purposes, even if someone wants to come in this day and time with the cost of construction, it will cost 5 times more
Mhm.
from the cost. Like if it costs 20 million to rehab Roosevelt, it will cost 120 million to rebuild such a building. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
what's the point in knocking down a well-built building? Yes, it's deferred maintenance where for years and years and years we have not had the funding, the necessary funding for whatever reason to maintain the building properly. But that doesn't mean we should just go in, bulldoze it to put up a new building that's going to cost us taxpayers, if we do it,
Yeah. Well,
to
a couple of
build
things.
even a new school, to even build a new school.
A couple of things. It doesn't cost that much to take all of that stuff out, to go inside and just gut it. I mean, it's sort of cost effective to just gut everything out of there and put everything new. So you still got your original Roosevelt. The facade is there, everything is there, except you got all new interior.
Yeah,
And basically you got a brand new high school and
yeah,
you keep the name Roosevelt. Now I'll be fighting tooth and nail. And then, by the way, it's already designated as a historical site.
yeah.
I was there when they unveiled it, so I'm going to be fighting that. Now, moving fast forward to what happened, I want to set the record straight. Uh, on the 12th of August, I was handcuffed. But let me back up and say why I was there in the first place. The day before that, Mr. Piggy called me, another board member, and asked me to meet him at Westside because he got a call that they was fighting all over the place. So I had to go by WLTH and pick up some tickets. I didn't know that Dr. McNulty was at the radio station. So as they was leaving, I was coming in. So I asked Chelsea, I said, did you know that they was fighting at Roosevelt? She said, yeah, that's why we're leaving going there now. So I went in, I stayed in about 20 minutes. So the reason I'm making a point of that is that they had a 20 or 25-minute head start. Now, when I got to Roosevelt, Dr. McNulty was just pulling up,
West side. Mm-hmm.
west side, getting out of her car. So I went in, I stopped at security, signed in as I normally do, and started walking, see if I could find Mr. Piggy. Well, the security person went in the office and came out, and Dr. McNulty called me back, and she asked me where was I going. I told her I was going to the gym to try to, validate some of the complaints that the parents had been calling. And said, you all not answering the phone. The parents come out here, you won't let them in the building. So they called me and asked me if I could go in and validate and give them the true analogy of what's actually happening. So she said, no, you're not going to do that. And I said, why? She said, because I said so. So I turned around and came back and said, you telling me that I can't come in the building, not because I'm breaking the law, just because you said so. She said, yeah, just because I said so. So I said, will you put that in writing? She said, no, I'm not going to put it in writing. I don't have to put it in writing. So I left. Once I got outside, I called Mr. Piggy. I said, where are you? He said, I'm in the hallway someplace. So I went around to the north side of the building. That's where the principal office, that's where West Side is, from the administration part. And I saw two people out there talking very loud. I thought they was fighting almost, but I couldn't hear them because I was driving. So I rushed and just stopped my car and got out of, left the door open and everything, ran up to see what was going on. And it was Mr. Piggy and Miss Melissa Henderson. So I said, what's going on? We can't go into school? Because Dr. McNulty just told me that I couldn't come in from that side. So Miss Henderson said, no, Mr. Buggs, it's not that. You can come into school. It's that Mr. Piggy was in there cursing and we got students in there. So I chastised Mr. Piggy right then and there. I said, being a board member, you know better than that. You know better than to do something like that. So he said, okay, I'll stop cursing. Come on, let's go in. She said, no, you can't go back in there. Don't go back in there. But the doors were locked anyway, so she couldn't even get back in. So while I was talking to Mr. Piggy, a parent came up and she was really banging on the door really hard. Now the security had their backs to the door. So they just turned around, looked over his shoulder, and I guess he thought that was me and Mr. Piggy banging on the door. So I asked the lady what was the problem. So she said, I'm a parent. My daughter texted me, said 5 girls, they jumped on her, and I come up here to pick her up. So there's a little buzzer, I guess, a little intercom outside. She's on that and banging on her door. After about 15 minutes, security came and asked her, what did she want? And she told her, my daughter said she was jumped on and I want her here to pick up. So he said, well, you'll have to wait here. I'll go get your daughter. He said, no. If 5 girls jumped on my daughter, I'm going into school. So he let her in, but he kept the door like ajar a little bit. So yeah. Mr. Piggy said, well, come on, Bug, let's go back in. Well, I had never been in. Mm-hmm. So when he reached for the door, the security told him, you're not coming back in here. And Piggy said, why? He said, well, my supervisor said we're not to let you back in the building. Mm. So he started having to tell me, go get him and have him tell me. He said, I'm not going to do that. So Mr. Piggy put his hand on the door and the guy, the police officer, got his handcuffs and opened them up. So I made a statement, well, if you handcuff him, you're going to have to handcuff me too. So he looked at me, he pushed Mr. Piggy's hand back and closed the door real quick. So we left, got in the car and we left. The next day, because later on I was still getting calls from the parents, did you get, what's happening in the school? So the next day I went out and Mr. Piggy say he want to go with me. I said, well, no cursing, Yeah, okay. So we stopped at the security desk. There was a security lady there. Mm-hmm. I took the pen, I put the time, the date, signed my name, and the reason that I was there.
Okay, so Mr. Buggs.
Yes.
It was a security person sitting at the desk?
Yes.
And we know that they are not letting you pass there without going through these protocols, especially since COVID has begun. They ask for your ID. They do something with your ID. I guess they scan it. I don't know. They make sure you sign in, and then they ask you, where are you going?
Well, she didn't ask me. She didn't ask me for my ID. The board members has always stopped and signed in. All we
Well,
did
they
was,
probably just know you then because you're
yeah.
the yeah.
Well, but we always sign in. You stop, sign in, put the date, the time, sign your name, and why you're there. So when I did that, and Mr. Piggy kept walking, I said, "Come on back, we got to sign in." So he said, "Well, my eyes are bad. Sign me in." So I signed him in, and he went into the office, started talking to Miss Irma Patton, and I proceeded to go to the gym because we had complaints that the children were sitting in the gym because they had no school schedules, and the people was watching them.
Oh, which end did you come in? The district end or the
I came in
school?
the west end by the administration office.
The administration office. Yeah, they don't necessarily ask for IDs there, but they do ask for IDs when you're coming into the school section. Okay, yeah, that's the
So
difference.
anyway, I did what I was doing. So I kept walking. Now the security person, she went into the office, but Dr. McNulty was not in the office. So I went to the first set of doors, and when I got almost to the principal's office, Dr. McNulty was calling me, Mr. Buggs, Mr. Buggs. But I kept walking. So she ran from behind me, came all around and got right up in front of me. Her body was actually touching mine.
Now you were still in the administration hallway, right?
No,
Or
no,
were
at
you
that
in the
time, no,
west hallway?
no, I had left out of the administration hallway. I was almost to the principal's office.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So when she got in front of me, she asked me where was I going. I say, didn't you read what I wrote on the sign-in log? I'm going to the gymnasium. And I told her why I was going, because some parents had some complaints that their children were just sitting there and being marked absent because they had no class schedules. So I wanted to see for myself. She said, no, you're not. You are going to leave my building. So when I tried to move forward, she was right in front of me. Now, mind you, it's supposed to be a 6 feet COVID distance. Her mask was up under her nose. So she's actually breathing on me. Now, at the meantime, she had 2 security officers with her. And there was about, I think, 3 or 4 security officers at the entrance by the principal's office and 2 Gary police officers. So why she had to physically stop me from moving forward, I don't know. But the first time she bumped my action not to do that again. And she looked around, I guess, and saw that they was there. So she now tried to move forward to the left. She get over to the left, to the right. She moved over in front of me. You're not going. I said, I'm going to the gym. You're going to leave my building. So she bumped me 2 more times. I didn't like that. So at this time, I'm surrounded by police officers and security. At no time did anyone tell me that I didn't sign in properly. I was trespassing, violating any kind of law or code or whatever. Nobody ever said that. So I said, the only reason you want me to leave this building is because you saying so. And she said, yes. So when she was admitting, no, you're not breaking any kind of law, she never mentioned anything about, like she said in the paper, that she tried to get Mr. Pig and I to go into her office to do the protocol, the signing protocol. That never happened. That's a lie.
So, but
So anyway, after about
did she ever try to have you go into the office at any point though?
no.
The
The
security
police officer,
guard,
huh?
did the security guard ask you to go into the office?
No, the security guard asked me, could she speak to me outside? And I said,
Okay.
no, I will speak to you in the office, which was the principal's office. I said, I'll speak to you in there. But I
Wow.
guess she didn't want to speak to me in there. So she said, are you going to leave? I said, no, I come here to see you. I told her again, all over again for the 4th time. The parents could not get in here. The children saying that they've been jumped on. They sit in the gymnasium, and I just came out here just to verify. That's all. We don't take no longer, 10 to 15 minutes. So then she told me to turn around. I turned around. She put the handcuffs on me and walked me at the north side of the building all the way down to the west side of the building. So during our little transport, I said, what did I do wrong? The only reason I'm in these cuffs is because she said she don't want me out of her building. So when we got around to the other end of the building, I was standing there still being cuffed, and she asked me would I go to my car and leave. And I said, no, I want to talk to somebody, while I'm there. So she called a transport, which is a vehicle to take you to jail. When that vehicle arrived, she took me, they have to physically hold on to you, and put me in the back of the vehicle. And at that time, a lot of people was coming to Bugs, what's happening? What are you doing? What are you doing? So I told them what I was doing, and McNulty wanted me out of there. I didn't violate any laws or anything. So to fast forward a little bit, the police officer came and asked me, could she speak to me in private? Now, there's nobody in the back seat but me, but I guess the driver that was driving the vehicle. So I said, for what? She said, I'd just like to speak to you privately if you don't mind. I said, okay. So she got me out of the vehicle and went over by my vehicle. And she asked me, is there anything I could do to sort of quell this situation? I said, well, no, you just do your job. I was doing mine. I said, we wanted to talk to Dr. McNulty, me, another board member, a parent, and a community activist. And I said, she refused. We've been trying to meet with her for months, and she refused. So she said, will you let me take these handcuffs off of you if I can set that meeting up? I said, yes, it has to be me, Mr. Bailey, a parent, and a community activist.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, I'm going to give you my number, and you can call me this evening. So at that point, she took the cuffs off of me, and I got in my vehicle with me and Mr. Piggy, and I left the property. That was the first and only time that I was escorted out of the building. She said that I was escorted out the day before, excuse me, which is a lie. That never happened. She also said that I was cursing, using profanity, and that I threatened her, the police, the security, school security, and the staff, administrators. That never happened. I never raised my voice. I never used any profane language whatsoever at any time. So whatever she was saying, it was just a blatant lie. And then I saw the newspaper reporter when they had that the rally, and I told her, you need to correct this because number one, I didn't curse anybody, I didn't threaten anybody. What you should have done, I said, the only thing that she was saying on the radio and to you should have went and asked security to look at the security signing law. Number one, should have asked security, the police that was working there, did I curse them out? You should have verified everything she said before you make accusation, put my name about it.
Right. Well, you know what, Mr. Bugs? One thing that I'm recognizing is that your story is consistent no matter which way I asked a question. You tell your story the same way every time. And, the main thing that, we are establishing amongst the citizens and parents and concerned citizens in the community is that McNulty is a liar. I know her to be a liar myself. I've had personal experiences with her. She is an outright liar. And I don't understand how the state at this point is still allowing her to be in the position that she's in. What I understand, though, is that there needs to be some type of transition plan written. And I hear that that is in the works. And I would say any parent that wants to have a say so as to what they think needs to take place at the school or in the transition, I would say, contact Mr. Bugs. He is the president of the school board, and let him know what it is that you think needs to be done.
One
What
one
needs
thing,
to change.
this transition plan, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, so I don't know about what. Tell me what this transition plan is all about and who's supposed to be there, because this is my first time hearing about it.
Well, it's something that has been just talked about within the community. I would say reach out to people that's on the DUAB board. Senator Eddie Melton. Even reach out to Dr. Vernon Smith. He was on the DUAB board, even though they don't have voting power.
He was just replacing Senator Melton. He's not actually on the board. They are non-voters, but
I would say
I've been
contact
talking
them.
to
They would have more information as to what's taking place or
transition.
what will be taking place.
Yeah, I didn't know anything. Now I had been talking on a daily basis almost with the chairman of the DUAB board, which is Attorney Justin McAdams.
Okay.
He never mentioned that.
I don't know if he
Bring up
knows.
to speak what he said. I complained to him about what Dr. McNulty was doing and gave him the facts. So I asked him if he would order her to let me have a copy of the incident report and view that video footage that she told me that was recorded. She
Mhm.
sent me a letter, by the way, that afternoon. Then she sent a certified letter stating that it was recorded
Mhm.
and that I cursed and I used profanity and made some kind of racial or something, which I did not. So he told me that basically that was not his job. If I had some problems, to take it to court.
Mm.
And I said, well, I was just trying to get it resolved because normally, before you go to any kind of legal action, you try to exhaust all of the administrative remedies,
But
which
he's not interested in trying to do anything. He just told you to take it to court.
yeah, he told me to take
That's
it.
basic.
He said,
And that's basically how they handle parents. And the
Mhm.
sad part about it is here in Indiana, Northwest Indiana, coming back up north from North Carolina, I had more access in the South to civil rights attorneys than I have seen available to people here in the Midwest. It's like there are absolutely no attorneys available. And I think they know that. I think they know that no attorney will take these types of cases. So they just bulldoze over us
Yeah,
because we don't have any attorneys that's willing to stand up on our behalf here. I don't even know how, if the NAACP doesn't if the NAACP, which when I worked with the NAACP, they have a way to help get attorneys involved. If they don't step up and step in to this situation, to all these complaints that's taking place, I don't know if we'll ever have real advocacy against the state. I don't know if we'll really have a fight per se. We can have many, many, many complaints. I think the only avenue that we have is to file a federal civil rights complaint.
Mhm.
And at that point, once if an investigation is started, they can set up perimeters to make the state and the school board, the DUAP school board, they can set up perimeters for them to live by. But then if they do say, well, the findings that we did get back was that your civil rights were violated, you do have a cause for a court case, we still run into the fact that there's just no attorneys willing to hold these people accountable to gain damages for our community? Like, where is that attorney as well? So,
Was for the NAACP, I spoke to them early on, way back before they even took over the district and the state. The process is that you bring the issue before the local branch president. He in turn is taken to the state president, and the state in turn related to the national. We need some national intervention, but uh, the state didn't think it was rose to that occasion for some other reason. She knows about it. I told her about it, but it was mom on the issue. I said, this is the most blatant discrimination I ever seen in my life. Here you have the state of Indiana sponsoring and passing a state law that only applies to one district out of all the counties and school districts in the state of Indiana, the Gary Community School Corporation, which is all black. That is racist. And I thought that the national should get involved in it. But I am disheartened. But with me being a life member in NAACP, they chose not to get involved in this. And I showed them it is discrimination. We have an education committee. This is about education. The children are not being educated.
yeah.
Their learning environment is being compromised by safety hazards, which could have been avoided and alleviated had the emergency manager used the funds that was allocated for just such thing as the heating and air conditioning, which she told me had been done, by the way, and it had not.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, maybe, hopefully, the NAACP will take another look at what's going on and look at the civil rights law that says, you cannot install a law that harms one group of people more than any other, whether it's intentional or unintentional. If it harms one group of people more than all others, then it must be struck down and changed. And
right,
that's that civil rights law, it would be for the school board that was taken down, and we have no one to go to for representation, even though we're being taxed. And it also would go for the fact that the state of Indiana instituted a law that prohibited the city of Gary from being able to tax the largest, largest footprint of a business in our city, which is the steel mill. I think they own the largest footprint of a business in Gary, and they've told the city of Gary that they cannot tax them in the way that's proper, a proper taxation. The state prohibits a city. The state is prohibiting Gary, Indiana, from taxing a business that is within its city limits.
well,
I don't know.
the tax issue with the U.S. Steel, we had an assessor that was going about it the right way, so they castigated him, So U.S. Steel literally went to Indianapolis, and Indianapolis allowed them to assess their own property. And we lost millions and millions of dollars because of that. So there was nothing nobody could do. They went down in the state legislatures, gave them that. But back to the lawsuit, we could have a class action lawsuit. Let me tell you why. There was one young lady, when you're similarly situated and treated differently, that's one of the standards of discrimination. One young lady was a painter, apprentice painter. She sent me a copy of her termination letter. She was replaced by a white male that lives in DeMott, Indiana. That's one case. Here's another case. We have a black paving contractor who is on the vendors list for the Gary Community School Corporation vendors list. Any job over $50,000 is supposed to be posted to give others a chance to submit a bid, a proposal for that job. This wasn't done. She got somebody out of her city where she lives I think it's Dave's Paving or something. Boyd's Paving out of Valparaiso, Indiana. And that paving job probably pretty close to $1 million, I would say, off the top of my head. But the fact is, he was never given a chance to bid on it. And he is on the Denner's list. And that's who he's supposed to go to first. But she went straight to got this guy from where she lives. Then she got Stan's Painting out of Hobart. We have plenty of people in Garrett to get painting contractors. Again, she didn't post it, but she lied and said that she did.
Well, the thing is that what I've come to realize about DUAB and this current super emergency manager, this is what they'll do. This is how they'll post it. They'll post it inside of her immediate office on the wall, and it'll be on a 10x8 piece of paper. And then they'll post it inside of the hallway of the administration. And then, because one day I went in there and said, hey, when is the next DUAB meeting? They told me, oh, it was last week or so. I was like, well, you guys never posted it. I never knew about it. Yes, we did. We did post it. I said, where? Right there. I mean, and this is what they call posting. And
they get away with that. So they're saying, well, we did post it, but we didn't post it so any contractor take advantage of it. Now, here's another thing too. I'm glad you brought that
it's
up.
on an 8x10 piece of paper in the office of the emergency manager. Nobody really gets to go into her office or his office. At the time, It was Maricas.
Here's another example. I talked to a contractor, Mechanical Concepts. He had a proposal to take care of the heating and air conditioning, and he submitted it to the maintenance people back in, I think, February or March. They didn't even get back to this man. He had been checking diligently on the website for jobs that are posted. So he was. It
was on that 8x10 piece of paper.
Yeah, it wasn't on the website. It was in the office, like you say. I didn't see it, but see, this is all
the trickery.
No, this is all information that could be used for a class action lawsuit.
Oh yeah, and then this is the other thing. And then this is the other thing. DUAB, they'll post their meeting like the night before. And it's supposed to be 8:00 in the morning. Okay, the night before, less than 24 hours, it goes out on their website. And the information as to how to log in or whatever. Less than 24 hours. And then we got to play like Inspector Gadget to go find it. And then we got to hurry up and get it out to people that never knew it was coming. And they miss it because they never knew it was coming, never had the ability to make time or plan for it. But then they'll say, we put the meeting out. No, you didn't. You didn't put it out. I thought by law, there was a law that said you had to put it out at least 10 days before it took place. So how is it that if the city of Gary has to put out their meetings at least 10 days and have to make sure that the public can see it in some type of capacity, how is it that you guys get to do a 24-hour notice or less than 24 hours?
Maybe DUAB did the same thing. They posted inside of their office, so.
Maybe that's what they did.
But when I complain,
look, while they're in Indianapolis, a 2.5-hour drive away from Gary, and they won't even have, and then they won't even have a meeting concerning Gary in Gary. They keep having a meeting in Indianapolis.
No, they refuse to come. They refuse to come to Indianapolis so we can ask Eric Perry some questions. Mm-hmm. The other thing is the public comment part. I tried at least 3 meetings to get on. I'd logged in. I could see my picture up there, hear everybody talking. But Courtney, when it came time for me to let me in to say something, there was some technical difficulties.
Well, there you go. Yeah, they look, technical difficulties is their scapegoat when they just don't want to hear you, when they don't want you to talk, when they don't want to meet with you, when they don't want a meeting, when they don't want to give you a voice. Oh, we had technical difficulties.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's almost like a DUAB is aiding and abetting them. I thought at first Mr. McAdams was going to be fair because he would return my phone calls or texts. He would do that. But then I found out he was just listening to me, let me vent.
He was pacifying you. Yeah, he was pacifying. Yeah.
When I would finish, he would say, "She's doing a good job." So in my mind, when
they playing games,
only and intentionally sent those children into a hot building wearing masks, he's saying she's doing a good job, because all the people that are making decisions about our children, the Black and brown children, which is the majority in the Gary Community School Corporation, are white.
And it's absolutely it's absolutely diabolical. It's diabolical. It's so wicked and evil that no matter who you call, there's absolutely no accountability. Period. When you call the chair of DUAB and you tell them our children are getting sick from this building that's heat and there's no proper ventilation for COVID, and he absolutely pacifies you and lets you talk, and then right after you're done, she's doing a great job. I mean, what a slap in the face of disrespect. And that's just diabolical. And yes, a class action lawsuit needs to be filed against.
Guess what? I get a lot of kickback from the so-called stakeholders here in Gary, Indiana. Now, let me tell you one other thing. I was talking to Mr. McAdams some time ago. I said, now, it is absolutely unfair that you got all of these people that don't look like me making decisions, and you don't allow the elected school board personnel to say anything when we sitting there knowing that they're lying to you. So he thought about it. He said, well, you know what? That's a good point. So that's when it started letting the public comment. Dr. Vernon Smith came back. I tried for 3 years and I finally got him to have public comment. That's a lie. So everybody just lie. But Dr. Vernon Smith has not been in the classroom. This pastor that was defaming me.
Well, I have to say that, I did see Dr. Smith on some of those DUAB meetings when I was able to catch it. I did see, I have to give credit to Dr. Vernon Smith where I know. He was speaking up on our behalf, but I'm gonna tell you, they did not treat him.
Was that before the referendum?
I think so, probably so.
Yeah, because after that referendum, something happened to him. I mean, his comments and his concern sort of waned after he was helping her push this referendum and lying to the public. He sold us out. He did.
I think this is the thing about the referendum, because, I'm going to be honest, Mr. Bugs, I voted for the referendum. But let me tell you why I voted for the referendum. I voted for the referendum because it was presented to the public like this. They said, if you vote for the referendum, it will get rid of the debt quickly or quicker than how we're going right now. And it would put an end to the takeover. And that's all I had to hear. And that's all that mattered to me.
You didn't.
I wanted, but what happened was this. We voted for it. The debt is now gone and they're still here. So they lied to the public, even for us to vote for it. They told us the reason for it was to end the takeover. The public voted for it because we wanted them out. And now let me finish talking, Ms. Buck. And now they're going around, Ms. McNulty and the DUAB. Well, see, the public wants us here because we've done such a great job. And they voted for the referendum. So that means they want us to manage them. No, you said that the referendum would be for the purpose of making sure to end the takeover, not for you to stay. We didn't vote for it for you to stay. We voted to hurry up and get you gone.
Okay.
And
Well, let me say this. Maybe you don't listen to WLTH and read the Crusader. I spend my own money. I was on the radio at least 3 times explaining about the referendum, the truth. I had the calculator with the homestead exemption and without it. Also, I explained in detail that MGT nor DUAB could restore local control. I had the law with me, House Bill 1315. Only this, a state law will do this. So I told everybody that 3 different times. And in the newspaper, these are the facts. You know, and I also said when Pastor Gardner was saying, 16, 20 cents a day, he wanted to raise from 16 cents a day to 20 cents a day. Well, that was a lie. I don't know where he get his math from. So he also said that the referendum passed 2-1. No, it didn't. It would have to have been 20,000 some votes, because I think it was about 9,000 that voted against it. It wasn't 20,000 that voted for it. There was only a difference of maybe 1,000 votes or something. But he said 2-1. So they just lied to the public. Now, I've been getting calls myself. One lady's taxes increased to $4,000. The more you own, the more you're going to pay, period. So for the next 8 years, they're stuck on that. But the local control, that was a lie. And I explained it to people.
well, now we see. Now we as a public, we are seeing, because we now know for sure that amongst a lot of different things, the debt is no longer where it was, that would allow
How do you know that?
Well, that's what Senator
That's what
Eddie
they say.
Melton. That's what Senator Eddie Melton says, and a couple other people at the state level says that has access, I guess, to that
But
documentation.
they didn't give them. I haven't seen that document, and I've been asking for that document. I want to see it because I don't believe it. And one major point I must make: the referendum is never ever supposed to be to eliminate a debt, a balance, a budget. It's for operational expenses only. So that right there should have been a red flag to a lot of people in the community.
Well, you are, Mr. Buggs. You are the school board president, and you've been that for quite some time, 2 terms, I believe, that I know of.
Well, I'm on the second term now.
Yes. And so you obviously know more information, because this is what you do. This is your job, to make sure that the citizens are protected. And you really dove into this referendum. You researched it back and forth. Unfortunately, I really didn't know you that much at that time. And I really didn't listen to WLTH as much. I'm listening more now. But I think conversations like this can get to our people more, because a lot of people come on Facebook, look at different things on Facebook. We don't really tune into WLTH like that. But now that WLTH is on FM, if they can get that out more, that WLTH is FM now, that would
Let me say this: the referendum fight is not over with. My complaint has not been heard yet.
Okay.
It was due to be heard on the 17th, but the attorney that we had, he withdrew at the last minute. So now I'm looking for another attorney to present my case, like I did in the Crusader.
Mm-hmm.
If you look in the Crusader, I mean, I that's as plain as I could get it.
Mm-hmm.
Legally, you got somebody that's a non-government employee working for a for-profit organization, place a referendum on the ballot, and then you got the chairman of that organization raising the amount from 46 cents to 56 cents.
Well, let's talk quickly before
enrichment.
Let's talk quickly before we close out. Tracy Coleman, an attorney here in Gary,
I
she's
know it.
filed a federal lawsuit that does talk about just that. She has put in there the fact that they removed the board, yourself and our other board members. There's taxation without representation, of course, something we talked about before, and the referendum and how what you're saying right now, how it was illegal. She's not only suing MGT, I believe, she's suing the election, the county election person who gave permission for it to be put on there, because she's saying that that person acted illegally as well.
Well, let me clarify something for you real quick. That is my complaint.
Yeah.
I filed an initial complaint myself in my own handwriting in October 2020. And there was some disagreement. Attorney Coleman asked me if she could help present my complaint pro bono. And she added Ms. Carter onto the complaint. And then there was some disagreement. Ms. Carter couldn't get back on the school board. So then Attorney Coleman dropped me as represent me and kept Ms. Carter. But the initial complaint, especially when in reference to the illegality of the referendum, that is my complaint. But I mean, I'm glad she's taking it to the federal court. But I just want people to know that I originally filed it in October 2020.
Well, when you originally filed it, did it include taxation without representation?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All of the things, I haven't seen a copy of it, but I was out of town. I got a call from a reporter, and he told me basically what was in it. And he asked me, he said he was confused because that was the same complaint that I filed in October. Did I know that she was filed? I said, no, I didn't. She added some things to it, but he was talking about the part where Michelle Feynman, she's a defendant. The Lake County election was a defendant. So all of those things and most of the exhibits came from me. But I'm not saying this because there's a disagreement between me and Attorney Coleman. I was letting you know that that was my complaint. So if she's taking it to federal court, good, fine. That's where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And anything I can do to help her, I will do that. But I'm still fighting them because they tried to sweep mine under the rug.
Yeah. Yeah. And those types of things in Gary, some of the things that definitely need to change in Gary. For instance, there are a lot of people that take people's ideas or plans or even statements and try to make them their own. We're going to have to stop that type of behavior in Gary. It's all around the city, how people in leadership and places of positions of power, instead of giving honor and respecting where something started and respecting and having some type of decency and loyalty to where something started, they'll just try to snatch it out of that person's hand and run with it. That's not, and that's not going to help anybody, because you're not going to go with the full power, because God, however God chose to position a person like yourself, he positioned you so that you would go through what you went through. And he trusted that you would be strong enough to get an attorney and file a complaint. And he was trusting that you will carry it through, because he placed that situation on your life. It just seems like it's so many people that will try to take what I call a calling or an anointing. If God called you, if he gave you that assignment, why do people in Gary believe that because they have some position of power, that they get to strip something off of someone or out of someone's hand and run with it? God is not going to bless it. It's
but
like,
the bad thing about it, then they say, well, you all should work together. Now, we should work together. Where in there did I do anything wrong?
Right. And it's like it's like, and it's like this, they'll tell you to work together, right? You'll be the person led like a sheep, right, to slaughter. You'll go honestly with a good heart to do the right thing, not knowing that you're sitting in the room with a pack of wolves who's just waiting to snatch it and try to run. Well, you still got an assignment, right? You still got this assignment. It's not going to go anywhere because God gave it to you. And I hope that Gary understands that God is not going to allow things to have long-term stability and long-term prosperity if you keep trying to steal anointings, steal callings, take what somebody else has been called and assigned to do, and then think that it's going to all work out. That's why so many people are seeing the enemy have more and more, gaining more and more ground. They're gaining more and more ground because you're not playing by the rules of righteousness. You know, they're not playing by the rules of doing what God wants in righteousness, honesty, and fairness. They're playing.
I think the citizens need to know that my personal taxes with my VA disability and my age and the homestead exemption, May and the November installment is probably less than $200. My point being, I'm spending my money to get an attorney and doing all this other stuff for the citizens of Gary because they locked into something that was illegally done for 8 years. So I'm doing it for them, but they won't even come out to the hearings. Yeah. I'm doing it for them. I mean, that is sort of disheartening, you know, but once God gives you something, you don't look for a crowd. You just go forward. He's there. That's enough. You know, if he be with you, he can be against you. So with that in mind, I will fight to the last straw, you know,
that's right,
for them and for the students. I got all these detractors, and I'm really hurt that a pastor would defame me based on a doggone lie. Just because she said so, good enough for me. Then if she in fact let him saw that tape, and then he's defaming me now, I might be talking to a lawyer to take up Mr. McAdams' advice. He said, you know, take him to court, sue him. My job is to make sure the children is being educated. I said, come on, don't play me like that. I don't talk till I got hoarse telling you the environments that the children sit out in the bleachers on a football field when they're supposed to be studying. They sit in the gymnasium, being watched like they're in a prison on the prison yard, and they're being marked absent as they sit in that gymnasium. Then you got fights where you have a lockdown the first 2 days out of 3 days of school. Yeah. And you saying everything is okay. And then what really got me another complaint was that two of the schools, I think it's McCullough and Marquette, became out of boundaries for the bus to pick up the students. What?
I heard that too.
The schools have been there forever.
How can they come out of bounds?
It was within the boundary last year, and the Illinois Central was the same bus company. We paid them $4 million. Anytime you breach a contract, there should be consequences. If they don't have enough drivers, then so be it. I will charge them $5,000 minimum every day that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But they let them get away with it. And then they suggested that the preachers use their church vans and probably would get a handout, you know, pay me some money.
Yeah, they want to get paid, as they should.
Yeah, you know, Pastor Garner. Yeah, this is a good segue. Yeah.
I mean, we are close enough to a slave state as there could be. I mean, the wages here are extremely low. The lack of opportunity that's been placed or concentrated in Gary for the last 40 years was really bad. I mean, now we're getting opportunities coming our way now because everybody wants to be here, you know, but before that, I mean, it's terrible. We got a long way to go with, you know, recovering ourselves from oppression. Oppression will cause people to steal ideas. Oppression will cause people to talk behind other people's backs. Oppression will cause people to turn on one another. That's the whole point of Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch was designed to oppress and to harm and to traumatize Black people for so many years that the outcome would be they'll just turn on themselves and kill each other.
There'll be days like this perpetually.
And so they know what oppression gets. They know what constant attacks or not giving us justice. They know that that's traumatizing. They know it will breed chaos and turning and bickering and pointing fingers at each other, stealing and taking from one another. Everybody's like a crab in the barrel. They know the outcome of that. And we got to get smarter. We got to start doing things God way, which is if God chooses to have a person go through a trial and a tribulation, and God gave that assignment to that person, we got to come and support that person with our gifts and talents. And we got to push that person forward the way God wants it done so that everybody is blessed. And then with that type of strategy, we create a shield of protection because we're doing it God's way and we're not doing it the way that they do it. We will not win doing it how they do it.
There's one thing that I want.
You can't cast out a demon with a demon.
There's one thing I want to say publicly. I don't know all of the details of Attorney Tracy Coleman's lawsuit or whatever she filed in court, but I want to say publicly that I'm not against it. Results is the only thing that I care about.
Yeah,
so I don't want nobody out there to be listening thinking that we at odds with each other.
This is not necessarily about Tracy. This is about the culture of Gary.
Well, I mean, talking about some people are talking, so they spend more time trying to create a decision when there's not one. So I just want to go on record as saying that results is what matters. You know,
result is what matters, true, but it's just like for instance, Black history has been ripped out of the hands of Black people, like Egypt, for instance. And white people have been parading around for how many years that for all of history, Egypt has only been Caucasian. And for a long time, we weren't able to see ourselves as majestic as Black people are. We were only allowed to see ourselves as second-class savages. And that was the only way that we are allowed to see ourselves. That's a strategy to keep us weak. We have to be able to function where we give history its proper place, how it started, who it started with, because there is power in a truthful testimony. There's power. You know, in the Bible, it says, we will overcome Satan by the words of our testimony and by the blood of the Lamb. We have to respect whatever the truth is and however it got started. And we can't try to switch it up, change it up, or change it in any capacity. We need, like, however it started with you, if it started with you, like you said, that needs to be recognized once we do get results. That should not be hidden or thrown out like it's not something that was done. We have to also understand that history is not done being written. We're writing history right now. And just like Harriet Tubman, it has been given her due respect. She wouldn't let nobody tell her what she could not do, and she would not let anybody change her mind as to what was going to take place because God said so. And just like God gave you this assignment and you're not going to give up on your assignment, people need to respect whatever assignments in this city. We got to have a new culture. We got to do things differently. We're not going to get anywhere unless we start respecting how God is setting things up. And that's it. If you can respect how God started it, we will have a God ending. And we want that.
Well, if they had done that, then we wouldn't be in the situation we are in now. If we had respected to do things the way God wanted to be, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
There you go.
But let me tell you something else, how Satan can get in there. People start doing stuff illegal to make the illegal stuff that they already done legitimate. Yeah, that's true. We had his name is attorney James Weiser. He took over as chairman of the election board. Now he's no longer on the, but he's not legitimately on the board. He's not an official board member.
Mm-hmm.
He chastised me and told me basically, shut up, boy. You do what I say you do. And I said, wait a minute, what Attorney Coleman, those are her witnesses. I want to present my case. If you give me my lawyer wasn't there, give me a continuance. He denied it. Now he's not even on the board. So
wow.
he's trying to cover it up and make sure that I go away.
Yeah, and that type of stuff, it will come back to haunt everybody who was involved. We got to understand, God is not a God that's going to let you get away with nothing. You cannot take part in sacrificing a lamb. Like if God sent you to be a living sacrifice, to carry the hearts and minds of the children and parents, God gave you that position. You're in the position. And when we love God, we got to live as a living sacrifice.
Absolutely.
We as the people, we should not be a part of trying to sacrifice in physical, because you can kill a person spiritually. Mm-hmm. We cannot be a part of the group that latches on with people who are doing wrong just so we can have some form of success in our own name and then sacrifice the lamb that God actually sent. Absolutely. We can't do that. We can't do that. Look at Judas. We can't do that. Look at what happened to Rome. They gone.
Yeah, I'm comfortable in what I'm doing, what I was sent out to do, what I was elected to do. And I'm going to do that. I don't fear any man. We was talking about that in church today. If God be with you, it takes a lot of courage to step out and do things against all odds. But if that's what God wants you to do, that's what you do. You remember there was I forgot, not a Bible scholar, but he wanted thousands and thousands of soldiers. And God kept telling him, no, that's too many. You don't need that many.
Yeah.
You don't need that many. You just need 300. Just need a few.
Gideon.
Let me take care of the rest of it. Got your back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I operate. What people say about me, God already said. Well, they talk about me, and if you with me, they're gonna talk about you too. So that's a confirmation when they talk about me. Say, hey, okay, God, I'm doing it right.
And when they try to push you out. That's what they do. That's what they do to the prophets. That's what they do to the prophets. Well, Mr. Buggs, I want to thank you I always thank you, Mr. Buggs. I always thank you. Ever since the first day we went out to lunch to talk about different things as to how we move forward in the community, me joining the NAACP. I mean, from the first time I met you, I just knew we have, God is using you, God is using me. And don't worry, Mr. Buggs, God is going to get the glory in everything. And it won't even matter. And the story is still, you are the president of the school advisory board, and you are.
They still going to be protesting, I guess, every week.
Oh, they are
kind of resolve. So, but I did
Okay.
want. I'm glad you allowed me to get the truth out there because nobody ever called me and said, "Bugs, what actually happened?" They just assumed, that I did all this cursing and disrespecting. I didn't do all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me see if I got anybody in the chat here.
Let me put this light on.
Oh, okay. I got one person in the chat. She's watching. Hello, Auntie. Yeah, let's see here. She says, Amen. She says, Amen.
Nobody
So
got no questions for me?
we don't have any. I got to learn how to use this chat box.
Oh, okay.
But we did get a comment. You can see it right there. Miss Darlene Price. She says, Amen to the conversation. So, Mr. Bugs, until next time, it's always enjoy. I always enjoy talking with you. Until next time, Mr. Bugs.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you. Have a good one.
You too. Peace.
Peace.